You know what? Personally, I'm absolutely sick of a lot of these people out here that want to talk trash about some of the women doing OnlyFans. All right. I mean, it's one thing to see some, 18-year-old girl that's, all she cares about is money and whatever. And, they're just throwing themselves out there because, all right, well, here's the reality. Stop and think about it. What other options do they have? All right, here I am. I'm, early millennial into Gen X, right? I come out of high school. There were no jobs, right? There's been no jobs my whole life because the whole time they've been replacing where the things I was supposed to be able to do for an income with computers and artificial intelligence to the point that I can't make a living. Sad reality is it might surprise you how many married couples out here with kids and everything else are literally sitting around and both of them have it in the back of their mind that it's like, oh, well, we could do an OnlyFans thing together or whatever, and maybe we might be able to finally make enough money to actually be able to buy a house or to have a nice car or to not have to worry about skipping meals so the kids eat for the month or whatever. You're reviewing this, Chloe, you're reviewing this lady, and the look on her face tell you all you need to know. I guarantee you she ain't out there doing OnlyFans because she's got all she needs, right? And the fact that you want to, and I get it. Like, I'm all about men's rights. I got problems within my own relationship and whatever. It is what it is, right? My life ain't perfect. I ain't pretending like it's perfect. But I believe in human rights, not men's rights, not women's rights, not gay rights, not racial rights. I believe in human rights. We all have the same rights, okay? And sad reality is, in today's world, there are a lot of people that are being forced into making choices where it's like literally, if you want to keep a roof over your head, you might actually have to make a choice to, put yourself out there, shove it, hide in a household vegetable for $3.99, right? Like, there are people that don't have any other choices, that have exhausted every other option. And literally, you're facing homelessness because the people you're working for don't even pay you enough to live on. And they want to act like they are entitled to, controlling your life because they sign your paycheck, but they're not even paying you enough to live on. The average person working in the world today cannot support themselves, much less a family, without supplementing their income. Period. End of story. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if you're somewhere in between, and I ain't making fun of none of that stuff. When I mention, I get into comments about LGBTQ, whatever, I always do plus, minus, divided, multiplied, whatever. And it's not because I'm making fun of it. It's because it's so complex that trying to add a label on it or trying to, lump everybody under the same category is never going to work. All right. So many people out here and they want to talk all this trash, and 99% of them know they've considered doing the exact same thing. The exact same thing. Because they don't have choices. They don't have options. There's nothing else, right? You're literally, you're sitting there one night and you're just, you're up all night long crying, can't even sleep because you don't know how you're going to pay the bills. You don't know if they're going to come take your car next week or whatever, and you make a decision that, you got to do what you got to do because you can't afford to lose everything and start all over, because the minute they take the car, you're done, right? You got no way of going, whatever, This ain't some perfect world, all right? And I'm not coming at nobody, okay? What I'm saying is that too many people out here want to get so judgmental based on the information that they are presented with. And I can tell you right now that most of the people out here on the internet that are making videos and trying to do social media and getting involved in all this stuff, they're not out here doing it because they're rich, right? Most of them, you never even see the inside of their home. Most of them wouldn't want you to see the inside of their home. and for very good reason, right? Because everybody got a cell phone, because you have to have a phone in the modern world or you ain't even gonna have a job. So you want a job, you gotta have a phone. In order to have a phone, you gotta sign a contract that basically says that, your cell phone provider can just anally rape you at any time they, excuse me, R word, whatever. Anytime they so choose, they can dictate whatever terms they want. They can shut off your ability to use that phone even though you've paid for it. Right? Because this is the way that companies are running in the modern world. All of them. They're not paying their people. They don't care about their employees because the working class is not standing together. They're all so busy out here going, men's rights, women's rights, that they're not standing together and going, you know what? If you refuse to work for less than what you can live on, I refuse to work for less than what I can live on, and we stand together and support the companies that actually take care of their people, we can change the world. That's a whole different thing. But until people start looking at each other and not saying men's rights or women's rights or, it's all misogyny and misandry and it's all this and it's all that and it's all the other. It is what it is, all right? I mean, realistically, I have not had good experiences with women in my life. Not my mother, not my sisters, not my grandparents. I mean, I have encountered some shining examples that I would consider to be classy women or whatever, right? Like I have encountered some women that are not necessarily like the kind of woman that most men despise, right? But even amongst them, even amongst the best of the women that I've met, I have always been confronted with the fact that because I'm a man, my life is somehow different, easier, or better. And there is no truth at all in that, right? But then men on the other side of that argument, men want to run around acting like women's lives are so much easier, better, and different. And everybody's so wrapped up in this concept that everybody else got it easier, everybody else got it better. Nobody in this world actually sits back and says, what's going on? What are the details that I don't know in the background of this story? Right? Right? Like, why? All right. You talking trash about somebody getting fired for doing OnlyFans. Why is she out there doing OnlyFans when she got a job? Obviously, she's not making enough. All right. What did her husband lose his job? Did he wind up, permanently disabled? Is he laid out of work for the next 6-8 months, whatever, because, something that he had absolutely nothing to do with, say he's working construction and some heavy machinery operator got a little too drunk the night before, comes to work and swings boom around on an excavator, knocks him upside the head, herniates 6 discs in his neck, and he can barely walk, right? Like, there are so many possibilities that, and I'm not saying that any of these people, have made these choices strictly because it was their only option. There's a lot of people that make it because it's the easy way out. A lot of people that make this choice because it's just the easy way, right? But the problem is instead of people standing together and defending each other and stepping back and going, what else is happening, right? There's no empathy. There is no empathy at all. Don't get me wrong, like, if I wind up divorced or whatever, and I'm back out in the dating world or something like that, and I find out that somebody that I might be interested in dating or am dating is, they're OnlyFans model, porn star, whatever, yeah, probably not going to stick around for that, right? I mean, I don't know many guys that would. Right? There's some guys that they're kind of into that kind of thing. They like, not judging. Not my place to make that judgment, right? But if I'm out and I'm dealing with somebody that, here we're out here fighting the trenches together, we're trying to survive and everything else, and we wind up backed into a corner where we had to make this choice together, if that person's willing to put themselves out there in front of the whole world to try and make a little bit more money with or without me being involved, that ain't nobody else's business. All right. Now I understand that, it is what it is. You walk into Walmart or, Menards or, from what I understand, you Canuck, and my grandparents used to go up and spend some time up there in a little town. And I don't know a lot of these big businesses up there, whatever it is, Take 5, Oil Change, doesn't matter where you work. Somebody going to walk in and they'll be like, oh, I was checking you out on your OnlyFans page, and they're going to get all upset about it, right? But the person that walks into the store that you work at and wants to get upset about the fact that you're out there doing everything you can and still barely surviving don't even care about you. They don't care about the business you work for. If they cared about you, they would be making sure that business you work for was actually paying you. So you wouldn't have to go out and do something like OnlyFans so that you can afford to feed your kids. Or whatever. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm using this as an example because this is like my personal life experience, right? My personal life experience tells me that there are many things that I would do to make sure my kids ate that I wouldn't do for any other reason. And consequences be damned, right? That don't mean that if it blows up in my face, I'm not going to be upset. Because obviously I would be upset if it blew up in my face, right? Because the whole point is, that's something that's got nothing to do, that's my responsibility to take care of, right? And if I'm not willing to do whatever it is I have to do to take care of that, do I even deserve to be where I am? I mean, as a man in this world, I'll tell you right now, the woman I wound up marrying is the only girl I ever dated in my life that showed up at my house. Literally. I mean, messed up story as it is. We met in high school, whatever. A couple of years go by, we run into each other one night. A few months go by, and it's like, hey, let me call this girl up and see what's up. Next thing I know, somebody's sitting in my driveway, right? Now, as a man in this world, what am I supposed to do with this, right? Like, I've never dealt with somebody that didn't just expect me to put everything, put everything into everything. At 17 years old, I was dating a girl where I was the only person in the house with a job. And I had two. And I was supporting her mama. I was supporting her. I was supporting her brother and her grandfather. All right. Nobody else in the house worked. Okay, they had some food stamps, whatever, their food was covered. But my paycheck was the only cash coming into the house. All right, now I'm not some jerk. I'm out working 80 hours a week. I come through the door, I expect some kind of food I can eat on a plate. You know what time I'm coming home. I don't give a shit if it's hot or not. I don't care, all right? I've been gone all day long. It'd be nice to come through the door, grab a plate of food, take a shower, jump in a clean bed, right? I had very minimal expectations in this relationship. I couldn't come home to a clean bedroom. I'm working 80 hours a week. I couldn't even walk on a floor in a hallway because there was just, God love her, the girl passed away. It is what it is. Things fell apart. It was too much stress for me at 17 years old to be trying to take care of the girl I was with and then having to financially support her family, her nieces and nephews, and all this other stuff that wasn't my responsibility. And it was like, it was as though, the family expected me. And I get that because in the real world, as a man, the family expects you to take care of them, right? When it's your kids and your wife, you're expected to take care of them. It's not just your family that expects that, it's society that expects you to take care of them. And when you don't, you get judged, right? So you gotta be willing to do whatever you have to do to take care of your responsibilities, all right? A lot of mothers in today's world get a very, very bad reputation. They're being judged by people that don't even know them. I don't know this woman's background. I know you're talking about her getting fired from a job and how it might make this job look and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sorry, the fact that so many people in today's world are working 2 full-time jobs, 3 side hustles, and they still got to do a porn site to survive, just to pay their bills, have a place to live, and a way to get to and from. That should tell you all you need to know about those businesses and the fact that you should not be shopping there. You should not be supporting the people that are, they're making millions, billions of dollars off of people that have to work 5 jobs and run a porn site just so that they can eat. And you're not out here talking about some, oh, well, what's wrong with the company she's working for? You want to be out here talking about some, oh, well, she made some bad choice. Come on now. All right. Come on now. I ain't making fun of you. I'm not even really giving you a hard time. I'm calling you out a little bit. I got a lot of respect for what you do, okay? Because nobody else does it. Nobody else really admits that men have rights. I mean, you got men out there that are trying to act like some little middle school girls with all the drama and everything else. You got guys out here running websites where, they don't really talk about either side of it. They do, talk about men's rights, and, they be talking to some of these girls that do OnlyFans or whatever, and these girls, some of them are quite delusional. But you know what? There's a guy out there that's got no problem dealing with some girl that wants to sleep around on him and, blah, 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 blah. There's some guy out there that will fill that position. All right? If he wants to fill that position, it ain't my place to judge. It's his rights as a human being to do what he wants to do. Her rights as a human being to do what she wants to do. Their rights as a human being to do what they want to do. All right? And there's a lot of things in this world I don't understand, especially when you start getting into a lot of the more modern trans issues and Therianism, and there is so much crap going on in today's world that everybody wants to sit back and they want to go, oh, well, rights for this group, rights for that group, Black Lives Matter. What happened to human rights? What happened to equal rights? What happened to movements towards equality, right? Because you're not looking at the company. You're not looking at what could be going on in this woman's financial situation that drives her to making this decision. She's in tears. I mean, it is written all over her face that she didn't want to be doing what she was doing, but it was the only way she saw to financially get out of the situation she was in, or to possibly break out of the financial situation that she was in. A lot of these people out here, a lot of these young girls out here that are, 18 to 22, which is like your prime viewing age or whatever, and I don't understand it because they don't really know what they're doing. They don't know what men want, and okay, so you're just young and not used up. All right, well, a 22-year-old porn star has more miles been put on her than a 35-year-old housewife. And I don't care how wild and crazy that housewife is in the privacy of her own home. She is not going to have the kind of miles on her that a 22-year-old porn star is going to have. All right, now I get that. And like I say, for me, it depends on situation and circumstances. Because like, if I had to make a choice between putting myself out there on the internet for the world to see in a way that I'm not necessarily comfortable even doing, and starving to death, what are you going to do? What choice are you going to make? I mean, you cannot honestly, Chloe, you can't sit here in all honesty and be like, if your man died tomorrow, and your whole social media platform, your whole empire starts crumbling, and then the economy takes a crap, and your choices in life are to hide the whole household vegetable for $3.99 or watch your child starve to death. You can't tell me you're going to watch that kid starve to death. And if you do, there's something wrong with you. I mean, it is what it is. Take into account some of these other potential circumstances, all right? I'm not defending nobody. I'm not picking on nobody. My life experience, like I say, and I've said it in a lot of comments, my life experience with women has not been great. I have been used. I have been abused. I have been through everything you can imagine and then some. One of the first lessons I got in my life from my mother is that as a woman, she is not required to like me. I'm your kid. I'm your child. I didn't ask to be born. What you mean you don't like me? What, because I look like my daddy and you couldn't keep a relationship together with him? Is that why you don't like me? Because that ain't my fault. That ain't my choice. That got nothing to do with me. All right. This is 8 years old. At 8 years old. And I'm not taking nothing away from what that is either. Because there's days I don't like my own kids. I'll always love them. They do dumb stuff. Whatever. It is what it is. But I'm also not going to be the first one sitting out here and passing a hard judgment on somebody whose situation I don't understand. I mean, a kind of sad reality is a big part of the problem in the dating world right now is things like OnlyFans and Google Images and all of these Pornhub, whatever, right? Because if your girlfriend won't do it, or she gonna give you a hard time about it, literally it's a Google search away. Google will give you anything you want. You can imagine it, you can find it. You ain't even got to tell nobody. I mean, of course, they track all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. But you ain't got to tell nobody. Nobody got to know your dirty little secret, whatever. You just go look up whatever you want. Google will not tell you no. It exists on the internet. Somewhere you can find it in seconds. Without having to deal with paying for dates. Without having to deal with, somebody who is emotionally unstable at some random moment in time and doesn't even really know why they're upset or can't articulate why they're upset, and they're just coming at you and you're expected to apologize because you're a man. When they're not even always upset because of something you've done. They're not always upset with you. But society trains you as a man that if a woman's upset, you apologize. Talk about crap. Really? I mean, what? Answer me this, right? Have you thought about, have you even considered, any of your viewers even considered why this woman's out here exposing herself to the internet to begin with? I mean, obviously, some of these girls got daddy issues. Some of them have been through some, nasty traumas, disgusting things that men should be hung for as children. There's girls running around that their first sexual experience has been, 2 or 3 years old, and it's their own father, right? My dad's first wife, God rest her soul, whatever you want to say, rest in peace, whatever. She grew up Catholic over in Germany, and when her father started sleeping with her biological father, and she went to the Catholic Church and started trying to find help, they told her it was her fault. She was the one that was responsible. She was the sinner, and she needed to repent because she tempted her father. They talk about all the little boys that the priests be playing with. They do the same thing to them. Victim blaming is a culture that doesn't understand the boundaries of sex, right? Like male, female, or whatever. I mean, I understand that in today's world with some people, this is a very complex issue because genes and genetics and chromosomes and mentality don't always match. It is what it is. I ain't judging. I'm not the one out here judging none of them people. All right, there's too much of that judgment going on. Too many people sitting back and not saying a word about it. All right, so for real, why was this woman out here doing OnlyFans? What drove her to putting herself on the internet and risking her job? Because it's very well known in today's world that if you get caught in a certain career field running a pornographic website, you can be stripped of beauty pageant wins. You can very obviously lose your job. I mean, happens to teachers and bus drivers, and all kinds of people get fired every day because of something that they said or did online. And it's not even always them. I mean, there are people that can create a fake profile to look like somebody else and go out and talk a bunch of crap on the internet, and because it looks like somebody that works for a company, all of a sudden you're losing your 6-figure salary because, you know, somebody that works up under you created a fake profile trying to get you fired so that they could take your position and your salary, right? Because the world is that kind of overly, ridiculously, retardedly just competitive. And I know I used a couple of these R words that aren't socially acceptable, right? But there's a difference between being mentally deficient or whatever you want to use as a politically correct term for genetic deficiencies, right? And I grew up with plenty of people, Down syndrome, schizophrenics, you name it. And I have friends that have gone through it. So when I use the R word, I'm not using that as an insult. At least not to the type of people that have actual problems. When I use the R word, I'm using it as an insult to people that should know better and have just made poor choices. They've exhibited poor planning, thinking, whatever. They've done something, said something incredibly stupid, selfish, whatever. So yeah, there are the only people that I know that fit the definition of retarded. They don't have a mental deficiency. They are neurotypical. All right. Other than that, there is no other definition for that word in my book. All right, and this is something that people got to understand about the reality of the world, and just because you interpret something one way doesn't mean that that is the way it is. All right. I'm not defending this woman. I'm not judging this woman. What I'm saying is that I don't understand how nobody talks about this side of it. How nobody stands back and looks at a third perspective and says, you know, rights aren't inherently male or female or whatever. That, you know, rights belong to every human being. They're human rights. They're not men's rights. They're not women's rights. They're human rights. I am a human rights advocate. I am also racist. I hate the human race. All right? I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what deity, spirit, whatever you believe in. I don't care what part of the world you come from. And none of that stuff matters to me. Reality is, I just can't stand humanity. I cannot stand the human race because they do things just like this. All right? Now, I wonder, Chloe, are you doing it on purpose? Because I know a lot of the comments in your comment section are actually quite misogynist. Many of the comments that I make could be perceived as misogynist, and they're not. I mean, they're based on my perspective or a particular view on a particular issue, right? But the reality is I might make one comment, but that doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about other sides, right? That doesn't mean that I'm not sitting back and looking at reality. You know, I talk about things from my life experience, and my life experience ain't the same as everybody's. It is what it is. You know, it just, I want to know, have you thought about, have you actually thought about, why did this woman put herself on the internet? I want to know. Because I can tell you right now, there are, voyeurism is a thing. Exhibitionism is a thing, right? There are people that don't have a problem with a lot of this stuff. It drives me nuts when you get so many people on the outside of a situation that want to look in and they want to talk trash about people and the choices that those people make, but they never want to step back and look at the bigger picture and say, oh, well, I wonder if this was even really a choice for them, or was this, was this the only option that you saw? Is this the only option you could come up with? I mean, was there really nothing else? Used to be a point in history where you run into some financial trouble, you go down to the local church, grab some food, and, maybe they'd pay your light bill or whatever. Today's world, if you're getting food, you're getting a can of turnips, you're getting some beets or some hominy, whatever. The only things that people are donating to food banks are things they don't eat. Things that no one likes. And they're trying to pass them down to people that don't have an option. And you want to sit there and tell me that somebody who don't have an option, that goes, literally, you walk into a food bank and you ain't got no money, and you got to choose between beets and turnips. If you're going to eat beets or turnips. All right, well, you could hide the household vegetable, or you could go pick up a John. It's kind of a messed up thing. Maybe it's the only option that you see that you have. But trying to judge somebody without knowing why they made the choice to do what they did is a totally different story, right? 18-year-old high school graduate trying to put themselves through college, becoming a stripper. Cliche. On guard. I mean, it is what it is. Like, there's a certain age for single women where long throughout history they have made choices to enter the adult entertainment industry because it's the only way they can support themselves. I mean, granted, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, they didn't let cameras in the strip club, whatever, so there was never any proof. A lot of men wound up married to women who just never talked about that point in their life or the choices that they had made before they met their husband and got married. And those women, they knew he didn't want to know. They knew if they told him, they're probably going to lose him. Right? Well, they're not stupid. People aren't stupid. So, I mean, I'm coming at it from a very realistic perspective, that there's something more to that story based on the look on this woman's face, based on the tears in her eyes. There is more to the story than, oh, she just wanted to hide the household vegetable in the cleaning bottle. And, she was doing it anyway, so she figured she might as well film it and make some money. Or, it's not, girl power, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make all this money. And no, there's something more to this story in particular. It was a last option. It wasn't a great option, but it was a last option. So anyway, take it for what it is. It's not a personal attack. It's, I realize that my tone is what it is. It's up and down, in and out, whatever. Just kind of a question, just a little bit different perspective from a human rights advocate, where, this has nothing to do with whether it's a man or a woman. It has everything to do with the fact this is a human being. And the reality is, most likely, they could not survive on their wages to begin with. And I want to know why nobody stands up for that side of it and does anything about all these companies. You know why? You really want to know why people don't stand up and fight these companies and support the companies that actually take care of their employees so they don't have to go hide the vegetable or whatever? It's because most of them only care about themselves. They only think about themselves. They only think about their own money. They only think about their own salary. They think about their own wants. They want to see naked women on the internet, so they want to make sure that women have no jobs besides being naked on the internet. Nobody talks about that side of it. Nobody talks about how the market is influenced by so many things. You know, if it was easy for women to go out and find living wage jobs, you can bet that 90% of the girls out doing adult work, not safe for work content, whatever you want to call it, 90% of them wouldn't be doing it if it was as simple as a couple of job applications and interviews to make the same kind of money, or even, you know, not even anywhere near as much money, but still enough to live on, right? They're doing it because they're being backed into a corner by people who don't care about them. They're doing it because society, as a general rule, puts their own wants and needs ahead of everyone around them. And the world used to not be like this. This is something that it's only happened since World War II, really. I mean, there's always been a sector of society that considered themselves more valuable than everybody else, the European monarchy for one. But, you know, you want to talk a bunch of trash, talk about reality. Find out. See if you can find out why was she doing adult content. You know, I really think that this should be part of the screening process. Before you go putting somebody on blast, why did they do what they did? All right, like, I mean, it's just, it is a sad reality in the world that a lot of people do a lot of things and catch a lot of flack. There's plenty of criminals sitting at the local prison that had to choose between starving or breaking the law. And maybe it started out as some petty, you know, shoplifting a pack of bubble gum, and eventually they become a career criminal and they get caught or whatever. But it's not always only because of their own choices, right? Like, your life can be affected by the choices of other people in very, very positive and very negative ways. People that don't even know you can destroy your life with their opinion that has nothing to do with fact. So, I mean, I'm just asking, what do we not know? Okay. And I'm looking at, what do I not know? I don't know why she chose to put herself on OnlyFans. If I knew that, well, then I could make a decision as to, you know, how I feel about her choice, but it's not my life to live. So the only thing that has anything to do with is whether or not I would consider myself to, you know, associate with this person, right? It is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. And, you know, human rights are a thing, right? Like, I mean, you look at United States of America, First Amendment, Bill of Rights says government cannot silence you. Okay, well, the government can't tell me what I can and can't say, but that doesn't mean that I have the right to tie somebody to a chair and force them to listen to whatever I want them to listen to, right? This is the complex nature of human rights. Men have rights, women have rights, trans have rights. All human beings have a certain set of inherent rights. I mean, it was the whole brainchild of the United States of America. All people created equal. All people are supposed to have the same basic freedoms and rights. We all wind up experiencing our own experiences in life. We all have our own unique problems We all come up with our own unique solutions. All right? If you're just doing, like I say, if you're doing OnlyFans because it's your fetish, you want to put yourself on exhibit, that's a choice. But if you got to choose between watching your kids starve and putting yourself on exhibit, is it really even a choice? So I'm just saying, there's more to this story than what's been presented. And I think it should be looked at that way, instead of presenting it as a fact. People don't like the truth. I hate it about society. People don't like the truth. Sit down and watch a handful of Mr. Beast videos. He uses physical quote-unquote comedy as his, one of his bits. He considers it to be entertaining to bully people on film. And it is what it is. I don't know, behind the scenes. I don't know if these things are scripted. I don't know, I don't know Jimmy personally. Maybe he is just a jerk. Maybe he's sick of people pretending to be someone or something that they're not, just because they want, a chance at getting some of his money or whatever. And that is a whole nother beast and nature of its own. But the reality is, I'm not going to watch somebody that's constantly physically assaulting other people, whether it's supposed to be for the comical side of it or whether it's just reality that, he's a jerk who's a jerk. I'm not watching it. I'm not giving him the satisfaction. Right? But even in that, there's more sides to that story than what I know, and I can admit that. So, what can we find out? Why is she out here putting pictures of herself on the internet? Not just what, but why.